How come the,
All right, I call this City Council Workshop, December 2nd, 2025 at 6 p.m. to order. We are not going to have the flag salute, pledge allegiance, because we're going to do that at our City Council meeting when we have youth that come. So that's when we're going to do our flag salute. We have everyone here today, so there's no need to do a roll call. And we'll go to our reports, correspondence, and discussion about the rate analysis.
All right, so we'll jump right into this. We have Andy Parks here, who is our consultant. He has a presentation that he's going to go over, and then plenty of time to ask questions. Go ahead, Andy.
Good evening, Brandon, and good evening, Mayor, City Council. Pleasure to be with you this evening and appreciate you taking the time to go through this information. I'll run through it. If you want to, kind of leave it up to you whether you want to ask questions during the presentation on any given particular slide or wait till we get through the end. Okay.
well, I like to ask questions as we go through the process.
But then what if he answers them later
Okay, we'll wait until the end.
Just kidding.
You know it's not gonna make any difference.
That's what they always say in school. Like, hold your questions till the end. I'll probably answer them anyways.
Well, like I say, I'm here to, at your pleasure. So as we go through, again, feel free to, if there is a question on that particular slide, you want to ask a question, I can certainly tell you that I'll address that in an upcoming slide. So, but this is an informative session for you to gain an understanding of the work that is done, what the implications, potential implications are for your community. Again, my name's Andy Parks. I'm a CPA. I rarely throw those three letters up on my introduction, in primarily because I don't want you to get the sense that it's all about accounting. This is really more of a financial exercise. My background is 37 years in municipal government finance, 13 of those with the City of Bend, going from technical work all the way up to assistant city manager, chief financial officer, and then been doing this consulting work for about 20 plus years, including a lot of rate type work, but a lot of more complex financial type work as well. Again, with that introduction, just kind of get into the kind of the project overview for the community of Boardman, and what those objectives were and so forth. But the objectives really provide you with a financial assessment evaluation of both your water and sewer operations, to provide a financial framework for near-term and long-term sustainable operation. Provide you the information as decision makers to make informed decisions regarding the funding of your utility operations, debt and so forth. Debt that is ongoing, your infrastructure costs, while minimizing your rate increases to the greatest degree possible. Also wanted to make sure we address the impacts from your recent general obligation debt funded infrastructure, the data center development in the Port of Morrow boundary, and then planned residential development within the UGB. And this was particularly relevant, as we looked at the water issues. The scope, we had a kickoff meeting, earlier this summer, and got an opportunity to look through your current existing conditions, looking at master plans, budgets, your capital improvement plans, and so forth. Developed a 20-year financial model that includes all aspects of your operation, and you'll see some high level one of the versions of water, one of the versions of sewer that lays out the framework for that. We did prepare, like I said, 3 scenarios. I think we actually went into 4 on the water side of things and did some deeper dives, on a couple of different scenarios. We looked at the rate structures that are recommended by the American Water Works Association, best practices, looked at peers using another company that I own called Civadata, and then analyze the usage by your customer class and propose alternatives, which we'll talk about in this presentation. And I've prepared, several different memos, discuss those with your staff, the final memos that you've received a copy of, and then this PowerPoint and the presentation here at your work session. Jump right into the water fund overview. Again, the objective here is, to achieve a financial stability or sustainability for your operations maintenance, your infrastructure replacement, and debt service. And the debt service component, just kind of a high level, is we looked at what the impacts would be if debt service were paid for by ratepayers as opposed to right now a general obligation paid by taxpayers as a property tax as opposed to a rate component. That's relevant in particular back to the justification for higher rates for non-city residents, property that's served outside the city boundaries. Key factors that we looked at here in terms of the assumptions and elements that build into the model is we use population growth estimates that are provided by Portland State. We looked at inflation data that is, from, the Fed, and that ranges from 2.3 to 2.8%. We looked at your CIP needs, and we looked at general obligation bonded debt, the allocation of about 914,000 that would go to the water fund if allocated based on the cost of water versus sewer projects funded with your general obligation debt. We looked at your current rates, structure, which, has been held here, as I understand it, at 1733 a month, including 7,000 gallons a month. Just high level, that's about 43% below the regional average. Commercial also is undervalued, a 2-inch meter base of 2153 versus a regional average of $108.77. The port dependency, your wholesale to the Port of Morrow, it's roughly 62% of the volume of water produced by the city. Your existing agreement does limit the wholesale rate adjustments to a max of 6% every 2 years. So, without any adjustment, what can tell you is you have fund balance deficits beginning in fiscal 28. Your net position moves to about a negative 16 million over a 20-year planning horizon. Looking at the model that we're going to talk about tonight, that includes keeping the wholesale agreement with the port in place and them having usage similar to what they're having presently. This is the first 5 years of what we see happening. You see the rates going up, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but the fund balance trending down for a little bit until it kicks in to where the rates, begin to be higher than the cost structure, and then gradually going up. And by fiscal 2045, that number, that ending balance, gets to be more towards the target. This ending that's showing is well below the target initially, but not recognizing that there's no plan whereby you would want to be seeing a rate increase of nearly a double right away versus a more incremental approach to rate adjustments. I think, always have customers asking, clients asking, where do your rates compare to others? And we've ran this particular table again with, looking at around 25, 26 other comparable organizations in and around you, both in Washington and in Oregon. And, this line here on the bottom it's not the lowest at zero consumption. There's I think a client, I'm thinking that is Klamath Falls, that has almost zero fixed rate cost. Everything is on a volumetric basis. They've got the lowest up until around 3,000, 4,000 gallons. But Boardman sets the low in this example throughout the rest of the range up to 20, I think that's 21,000 gallons of water. And you can see the median and average are, track each other fairly closely. And then you have, someone here at the high end that is, charging on a tiered rate structure that ultimately has very significant consumption rates. But again, Boardman's at the low end of the 26 Oregon, Washington entities. There's going to be hikes are needed for equity and sustainability. The tax funding, that you're doing with property taxes for geo debt certainly justifies 150% outside city surcharge, and can talk more about that as we, present you with the rate impacts going forward. So again, the assumption being that, the port remains a customer using, the existing agreement, which limits wholesale rates, adjustments to 6% every 2 years with no expenditure, cuts in terms of the operation being sustainable on its current basis, increasing with growth in the customer base and so forth. The rate adjustments needed to meet the, some fiscal measurements that I can show, here in the next couple of slides for retail to achieve sustainability. And this includes replacement of your existing capital infrastructure, building up a base for that, is 12% annual increases for effectively 5 years, followed by 5.25% annual increases for about 7-8 fiscal years, and then a CPI type of adjustment going forward. And then also putting in wholesale increases as allowed by the agreement with the port, 6% every 2 years. What happens with that type of scenario is your total resources increase from about 1,044,000 in 26 up to 3.62 million by 2045, and your ending balance, fund balance, which right now, was just a few $100,000, ends up increasing to a little over $7 million at the end of 20 years, which gets close to the target, which again includes having appropriate balances for contingency, working capital, and replacing your existing infrastructure, consistent with depreciation and so forth. This model did not show those replacements taking place, which would reduce your balance. This just assumes that replacement over time, building, that balance, which is effectively the monies available to go replace the infrastructure as those demands arose. A single family home, going from about 1941, that's actually from 1733 presently, rising to about $54 by 2045. And that $54 is not much greater than what comparable cities right now are paying for that amount of water. The risks, clearly are, have moderate, hikes here for the next several years. It does preserve affordability, but it does depend on the port, its water usage, and its stability. Again, I mentioned, key metrics, growing the fund balance from around 400,000 to upwards of $7+ million. The incremental change, is a minus $278,000 presently and this is relative to the desired fund balance or target fund balance, looking at some objective criteria, and I'll show those here with the chart coming up. But being under about 278 presently, that increases to about 1,000,001 minus, 1.2 million minus by, over 10 years. But then over that last 10-year period, it builds back up to where it's on target. The assumptions again are full cost recovery for your existing asset replacement reserves. And the existing does not include the assets that were funded with your general obligation debt. Those that would effectively, the modeling and the discussion with your staff is that would be, you're paying debt right now on those. So it'd be somewhat doubling up on your customer base to be recovering as you're also paying. But the model would, and the recommendations are you would begin to recover those costs for GO when that debt matures in fiscal 21 or fiscal 41, fiscal 42, I believe is when that debt is paid off. So again, GO assets are excluded during the debt term. And I'm not sure how big these numbers are showing up on your screen. Hopefully they're at a size that you can see. If they're not, I can probably explode this. Anyone comment?
Can you please make it bigger?
Sure. Does that help at all?
Somebody with a mic might be able to ask them to go full screen.
And what I'm doing on this is really just exploding it to the max I can on this particular PowerPoint slide. And I'm going to focus in on the fund balance analysis piece. And are those numbers big enough to where you can see them now?
No.
They're not. Okay. Let's see if I,
This is the one we had printed on.
it is. Yeah, and if you happen to have the printed copy, that in front of you, I can just walk through what the schedules are including and focus in on the fund balance, ending fund balance in that analysis. Does that work for you?
There was no attachments to our,
Do you want me to print them or do you want me to email? Full screen. Okay.
Yeah, let me see if I can make this just a little bit bigger. Is
I
that,
think there should be a button for presenter view, like slideshow. That helps. That helps as well. But
That
there
did
should be a
help a lot.
button for
yeah,
slideshow.
let me do something different. I can share a different file. Let me pull that up real quick. The file that I'm sharing right now is the PowerPoint, and that's not the model I think that we want to see.
And while you're pulling that up, does anyone have any questions about what has been presented so far?
My question would be, so is that 6% every 2 years with the port? Is that set in stone and it cannot be changed?
It is, the agreement, it's a 30-year agreement. correct?
Gotcha.
Now, they could always negotiate, we could always change that, but that's,
That's what
right
it
now, the
is.
contract is a 30-year.
And
agreement.
but they are our number one customer as
Correct.
far as water goes.
Yeah, number one user.
Number one user.
Yep.
Thank you.
And Andy, and I forgot to share this, Mike Lees noticed this. So when we got to 2030 and it said our rate increase would be 5.25,
Right?
it also showed the port being 6, and that's not the agreement. We can only raise the port an equal proportion up to 6. So if we go to 5.25, whatever, then the port's only going to be 5.25.
Okay.
2 or whatever, in 45, it would also be 2 for the port. That's
Okay.
how the agreement is right now.
Okay, so what we can update that model, and thank you for that catch. I believe you have per that agreement, you could do 3% each year as opposed to 6% in a given year. So you would be below the 5.25 in a given year, correct?
Yes, but the agreement does state that the increase can only be, it has to match what the residential increase is.
Correct.
So if we don't increase residential, we can't increase the port. That's the way the agreement's written.
I don't think there is a minimum. I don't think there is a minimum.
No, but it does have to be a match,
Correct. Up to 6.
up to 3 per year.
So 6% a year is what, bucks?
Every 2
Roughly
years.
No, I mean, if we raised ours 6%,
Then we could do theirs 6%, correct? Every
that's
2
roughly a
years.
buck a month, a buck a month a year, or a buck a month.
That I
What are
don't
we, like
know.
18 bucks, our base rate?
Ours is 17.
So I rounded to 18, that's, so 6% of that is $1.
But they pay it, theirs is different.
No, I'm talking about the residential.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, you can't speak to the port. Port's gonna pay what they gotta pay.
But our increase is 12%, not 6%.
In this proposal.
Correct. It starts off at 12% for 5 years.
Well, why,
And again, that's the figure that he gave in order to
Correct.
get those savings.
And to clarify, are you saying the contract for the 30 years would then be negotiable, or are you saying like for life that any amount that we raise for residents is what we can raise for the port? Or once the 30 years is up, then
Oh, then we
would-
can renegotiate, correct?
Okay, just to
Yep.
clarify.
$2 a month. So it'd be 20, instead of 18, it'd be 20 if it was
Yeah.
12%.
And on that,
Well, but then it's
And
12%, 20, not 20.
and there was an email sent
Right.
earlier,
It's 12%.
and it does show like, hey, this is what it's at
So
at
the number difference
26,
Right.
27, blah, blah, blah. So it does,
How
it
can
did show.
$5.
But it doesn't mean we have to do it on a 30. We just do it,
That's right.
talk about it every year.
But it would be easier, more financially
So for the first 5 years though,
to do.
you
the
said
full-
12%.
Right.
So it would be $2 roughly
And then we're not gonna
would
have.
be the rate increase
Crap.
Yeah.
We're not gonna
and-
pay
for 5
We're
years
gonna
and it'd be
No, I-
2.5 or whatever the percentages,
I mean,
17, 19, 21. Yep, that's it right there.
and that's per month.
and I'm not gonna charge what Hermiston charges. I'm not going down the road. That's my vote. I know we're not voting, but we're not gonna tax our citizens out of, I mean, if we run out of water, out of money, we run out of money, but primaries, we can't afford to pay.
Oh, and like he was saying, like we are the low of the low.
Yes,
And after 40 year or whatever, when we get to 45, now we're paying the average of what people are paying right now.
correct.
So-
I mean,
It's no, you guys, I mean, really, the city has done a tremendous job of keeping the rates low. The bond has allowed that.
Really?
we need to address it, but holy smokes, I mean,
Right.
if we make it, what was it, $50, it's gonna be,
Oh,
how long is it gonna take to get to 50, 20 years?
and if we would have got
Well,
a
at
loan
12% each
to
year.
go out and fix any of our water or sewer, it's automatic double. Like you're going 30 or
Well, you-
40, whatever Biz
When you
Oregon.
do a USDA loan, you have so many years to come up to a certain rate.
Yeah.
And that rate is up around 50 or $60.
Huge.
Right,
I'm wearing my reading glasses and I can barely read these.
right. Yeah, that's not any better.
And I do want to add that we're not trying to increase rates just because we're the lowest and hey, everybody's ahead. It's to be financially responsible so that we don't get into deficits and we can still afford to keep our staff, our certified staff in water and wastewater, to keep our system at the high quality that we have or better, and to be able to supply it when we need it. Just like when we had that water outage and our guys got it up and running in some hours. I mean, that was great. And that's because we have the trained staff to do that. Otherwise, it would have taken at least all night long. So it isn't just to raise our rates,
No.
it's so that we can keep affording to maintain our system.
And that was, so if I read that right, 2030 was when they had estimated that if we did not raise our rates, we would be running a deficit, correct?
Not even, no,
Oh, that was
even
funny.
before that.
Before.
It was before 2030.
Yeah.
2028.
2028, we would be running a what is it, $16 million deficit?
One of them
That
is,
deficit.
Yeah, yeah, the timeline with no rate increases would be a negative fund balance in fiscal 28.
So 3 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, I'm sharing my Excel full desktop now. Are you able to see, are these numbers at a size you can read?
That's perfect.
They're better, yeah.
Is that getting there better?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so this model, is showing, this is no rate changes whatsoever. Fiscal 28, you're negative and then it just, explodes after that. If we go back with I think this is the right one here that shows the 12%, rate adjustments for 5 years. And I understand, and I just want to clarify, when you get to 5.25, the port rate can't go above that. But my
Correct.
understanding
Correct.
is the port rate is 6% maximum of 6% every 2 years. So if, for example, we change this to 3%, they would be below the 5.25, and you could do 3% the following year, or 5.25 this year and 0.75 the next year. That would fit within the contract language I believe the port has presently.
Perfect.
So does this, I'm assuming this calculates for what potential growth we could have too, correct?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So we've got factored into all the assumptions. I can run through those with you real quick. Is, this is showing the rate, just at 7,000 gallons a month. This is the percentage change in retail, percentage change in wholesale, dollar change on the single family home. We have, what the percentage increase is for pay steps only, uh, percentage increase for COLA only, PERS, knowing that you guys, have, I mean, the costs related to your employees are, the most significant, ongoing costs. So we've tried to dial in all the cost elements on your staff and, what the percentage benefits are of salaries, adding a employee, half employee here in fiscal 27 to deal with growth. And then there's another half 10 years later. We've got the CPI included. We've got the population growth rate, shown. It's a fairly significant growth rate presently, and then that tails off, beginning in fiscal 28. And this is using historical numbers here for the first few years to get you up to the population where you're at, according to PSU. And then the PSU number goes down below 1% per year. But the model's set up, to be able, literally could give this to Marta and she'd be able to, well, that number is now 1% or 2% or whatever, that can then update the forecast. We have the number of people that happens, got the PSU number, if you had a franchise fee, and then, the ability to drop in capital outlay and so forth is there in the model. But, kind of going back to, where we left the presentation, we're showing, this fund balance analysis. So this num right here is showing, let's see if I can, kind of highlight that. That's showing the projected ending fund balance. And you can see, it's going down to 210 in your budget. If rates were increased, it's starting to climb. But even though it's climbing as relates to what the desired fund balance is, and I'm, showing this with some recommended fiscal policies for the city. Again, this is your available fund balance equal to your ending. A desired minimum would be, 90 days of working capital. And that's going to be based on what is your operating cost. So this is, 1/4 of your total expenditures, up here, is this number. And then having a 10% contingency. So 10% of this number. giving you a little bit of flex there. And then looking at your replacement reserves. And this is looking at not getting everything that maybe you should have from prior years. It's like, let's build this incrementally over time. So this is effectively the annual depreciation straight line for your existing capital infrastructure. So if you're to look at your comprehensive annual financial report, that, the audited financial statement, they're going to be showing about $250,000 a year going to depreciation. So this is the expiration or the use of the capital assets that you presently have, and then just building that number annually, and that's growing with inflation as you go out. So that number continues to go up, and it's just going to take a while for the rate structure to build over time to ultimately get your, to build towards your desired. So you can see you're still, growing on the negative side relative to this difference, but at some point that starts to go down, and that's at around 2034 is when it kind of peaks, and then that number goes down to where it, when you get out to 2025 or 2045, a 20-year period, now your ending balance up here is very, very close, just from, again, 20-year financial, this is a rounding error, right? 46, thousand on 7 million. And, I could tweak this thing, play for an hour and I'd get the number to be exactly zero, but it's close enough for this level of exercise to get you to see what the intent here is. And it's just a matter of order of magnitude. It appears to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, 5 consecutive years of 20%, or excuse me, of 12% increases, followed by 5.25, followed by, at that point, out about 16 years from now, then getting more to a COLA type of increase, which I think everybody, would understand is, a reasonable, type of thing on a longer term basis. But, it's a long incremental process of rates above CPI, adjustments above CPI, to get you at a place where it's sustainable to adjust to a CPI type of a rate increase, going forward out again about 15, 16 years. Okay.
Invest in some turf in my front yard.
I'm going to go ahead and go back to the presentation.
Any questions on that? Okay.
No, it's pretty clear.
Okay. Yeah. And I think, Brandon, Marta, they have, the hard copy of this, for you. And then I'm going to get out of this slide because this slide's really ugly now. And that's the second page of, the second 10 years. So, I think, from a recommendation, best practice type of approach, is, adopting the scenario with the port staying under its current agreement, and, be able to move forward with, that framework. You are, clearly able to justify, charging rates that are 150% of whatever the city rate is to charge as a surcharge to non-city, resident customers. That takes care of the general obligation debt equity, and we've got that modeled as well. Your rate structure, there's a couple of reforms that are appropriate. It's one is to scale the fixed charges by meter sizes. Right now, you have the same, base rate. The meter size, what the base rate is to charge based on capacity. So a 2-inch meter, if I recall correctly, has effectively like a 5 times capacity of, a 3/4-inch meter that's used to serve residential. And so the model would show whatever that rate is for residential, whatever that capacity multiplier is, that base charge should be multiplied by that amount as a fixed cost. Another best practice is eliminate the included or free water component and add the volumetric charges that are existing, say above 7,000, to charge that from 0 gallons right on up. The other component, it wasn't a factor in this discussion. Other communities, the state of Oregon certainly, is encouraging to have tiered structures. So when you start to use water beyond a certain amount, you actually raise the cost, and it's completely backwards to what a business model would say, which is the more water you use, you pay less. And there are places in the country that do that. Southeast is the predominant place, but in the Northwest, West Coast, there's the model to encourage conservation is to have a surcharge once you start getting above a certain amount of water. And through that, we can boost revenue, through the consumption rates and so forth.
So Andy, hold on.
Sure.
Can you explain that? Thank you to the council. So right now we are doing $17, 33 cents, and that covers 7,000. The new rate would be whatever it is.
1850.
Yeah. No, it's not that.
Yeah,
much at
20,
first.
sorry.
Is it 19 and 26? It's 19? 1941, and then you charge per thousand, correct, Andy?
Yeah, you charge per 1,000 gallons of water,
Cents.
and
At what rate?
well, and I think you could get by with the
Yeah,
current rate.
1941 for your base charge, and then 41 cents or
Currently, it's 47 cents per thousand after that.
yeah. So that would be the new rate.
So it's currently 41 cents per thousand right now,
It should
Yes,
be
right
in
now.
it's in that rate somewhere.
and the new rate would be,
The first 7,000.
No, for every 1,000, correct?
The new process.
That would be the new process.
That's 7,000.
The current process is they give up to 7,000.
Right. and
The new
anything-
process is straight,
anything over 7,000, we charge 47 cents.
correct? And the new rate is
Per thousand.
per thousand, like not after 7, it's right at 1,000, correct, Andy?
Yeah, it'd be from first gallon used.
Thank
First
you.
1,000 gallons would be, your rate per 1,000 would be implemented from right at base usage, right?
Correct.
So, yeah, you
well,
wouldn't.
we don't have to be like everybody else. Why don't we try to like figure a way to, the
So-
more you
Yeah.
use, the less you pay.
So, and you would pay less.
Well, I mean,
You have the base.
we don't need to be like the whole West Coast and just charge to charge
and
on usage. I get that, because we're going to end up running into areas where people just aren't going to water.
correct,
And I could easily be one of those fellers until my wife tells me to turn the water on.
correct. So
But-
all of his figures are based on that notion of a base rate, then charging per 1,000. That is how we get. And again, when you look at that, you're getting out of where, like, you're coming into the 0 range after how many years? 20? Like, that is how long it is taking us, 20 years at that. So, I mean, that's just another, like, to think about.
Right.
So 20 years for us to break even.
Correct. So this is not like, hey, we're jumping off the cliff and everyone's going to be paying out the nose for this. This is like in 20 years,
will
we
finally break
hope
even.
to be able to break
Well,
even.
I get that, but in 6 years, we're going to spend, it's going to probably be $36 for our base rate, roughly $36 in 6 years. That'll be our base rate. If we go 12% every year,
No,
It'd be more like 32, but.
Where's the-
years now.
Okay, so now, if that way, if I'm gonna get a bill if I don't use any water at all, just like the sewer,
17.
for $19.41.
Is the bill.
Then I use the first 1,000 gallons. Okay,
How do
is
you-
it 47 cents times 1,000 or is it 47 cents? Do I buy 1,000 gallons of water for 47 cents?
Correct.
So then the first gallon, then I'm paying 1988. And then the next 2,000, then when I go to 2,000, I'm paying $20.35. So my winter bill, which normally is 2 or 3,000 gallons a month, won't be that bad. But in the summer, when I'm watering, it's gonna be outrageous. Like you're saying.
Be higher than what we want.
People will definitely
Wow.
need to adjust their.
So, yeah, so in 28, it could go up to 1941 as the base. And the per,
So is that right? You
Where
don't get the
is-
first 1,000 gallons in your base rate?
Currently?
Base rate, no, and then projection.
Your projected
In
rate?
the projected rate, the first 1,000 gallons are not included in your base rate.
per 7.
You don't get
It's
any
7.
water.
You get 0
You
drops
get-
of water.
you get
for the
7.
base rate.
You get 7,000.
Currently, you get 7,000.
But
But
what
in
about
the
the
new
project-
proposal, you
Correct.
get 0.
Correct.
Yeah.
You pay,
No, use it.
A little more. Little, there you go.
I have a pretty big voice.
Well, it's because the people on Zoom can't hear you. The mic doesn't catch you.
So the proposal though, is that you don't get 1 drop of water for the base rate. You pay the base rate even if you don't turn the water on.
Correct.
I mean,
Yep, that's correct. And
And the minute you turn on the tap, you bump up 47 cents,
For the first 1,000.
up to 1,000 gallons.
correct. Where is, Andy, where is that
In the,
rate?
It's not right here in the slide, but let me, or is it?
I'd like to see what my regular bill is during the summer. I know your sister has that capacity.
And I do have that somewhere. I'm gonna share.
Because it's,
Yeah, let me do something here. I'm gonna stop sharing. I'll pull up this other slide deck again.
Man. Could you look at my bill?
I'm looking to see if I can.
and Andy, do you know if that's what the other cities are doing? Is they are at a 0 rate or are most cities not doing, like, are we the unique ones that allow the 7,000?
a lot of,
You are.
Like, okay.
Well, maybe
Yeah,
there's
can
some
you,
tweaks.
are
that
you
we-
able to see my Excel sheet now with the rates?
Yep. Oh, that's the 0.47. Thank you. That is the one. Perfect.
I don't think we want to discourage people to water because they're afraid their bill's gonna be high. That's the last thing I want. I mean, we got fiscally responsibility here. But
Correct.
at
Like-
the same time, I mean, if our goal becomes, hey, we gotta balance the budget, then we gotta deal with people not watering their lawns, city not watering their grass, school, like somebody said, schools aren't gonna water. I mean, we gotta realize that
Are there regulations though? You cannot have dead grass? Is that,
People are just gonna start putting rock in.
that's not a regulation? You can have dead grass? You
why
can,
can't
Does
you?
Boardman enforce it? Does Boardman enforce it?
I don't know.
Have the tall weeds.
all I gotta do is mow my weeds.
Okay.
Then I got brown grass.
Uh,
My trees are gonna dry.
yeah, hey, I was just wondering, are you able to see this
Yep.
file here? That
No,
has
no,
the
that's
rates?
perfect. Yep. That
Yes.
47, 54, 59, that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah, so, I mean, just I think keep in mind if at the end of this 5-year period, that chart that I showed you earlier that shows Boardman at setting the low end on rates, you will still set the low end on rates. you will still be the cheapest water of those 26 cities.
Of what, 26 cities?
The cities that I showed you earlier on the chart, and you should have that in your PowerPoint, but there's 26 cities in Oregon,
I
Washington
don't
that
have it.
are part of
Bend,
that comparable.
yep.
Nothing's in their packet.
It's
Oh,
not
it's
in our
not.
packet.
Oh, yeah, we did not get this one. But yeah, Bend, Canby, Grandview, Hermiston, Aragon, Kennewick, Klamath Falls. Yep, we'll make you a copy.
Yeah, but your consumption rate is literally a fraction of the rates in those other communities. I think finding anybody less than $1 presently would be
And
a unicorn. You guys are a unicorn.
Best in a well.
thank you.
In a
So,
well that I sure.
So I-
invested in.
so hold on, wait, just real quick. So Andy, just to clarify,
Yeah,
the cities the 26 cities that we are the lowest, they are also saying, hey, here's the base rate, and we're going to charge you immediately per thousand, correct?
right. Yeah, that's a best practice and what you're
Thank you.
finding consistent in across the board. And I mean, when I first started in Bend 37 years ago, we had just base water charge. There was no consumption charge whatsoever. And didn't do meter reading, none of that. And it was something that that community made the decision to go ahead and make that difficult transition to start charging for water. And we did that over a period of time. And yep, there were some folks that didn't want that to happen. It ultimately happened, and it's what's in place today. In that 7,000 gallons, it during the winter, that consumption is less than 7,000. I want to say 90+% of the accounts. In the summertime, I understand, there's certainly irrigation that's taking place, and that's when the high demand, does occur. And at the rates that you presently have, and I would suggest to you, 71 cents, in 5 years is going to still be considered a real bargain relative to what other things are going on. And I would argue, as you even get to the 31, 32, and so forth, your rates adjusting at 5% a year, with inflation being, 2.5, that's still going to be a relative bargain all the way out to 25 or 45. It will still be a relative bargain.
No. Hey,
It's scary today and looking at it, but when you go through that process, it will all be relative.
I got some numbers. Brenda, you were asking for something.
Mhm.
So I looked up my own personal bill and I looked up last month where water's been off. And it was about 5,000 gallons is what we use. Our base rate was 1733 is what it said on my bill. So then I went and looked at July where usage was probably at its highest point. I used 59,000 gallons, or at least that's what it says here. And then my bill increased for water to 4193. So is that what you were kind of
Yeah, I
number
was
wise?
just trying to get an
So it went
idea
up,
what my
what,
water bill, how much water I use.
24,
in summer.
20, yeah, about 24 more dollars is what it went up for in probably the hottest month of the year.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that's what you were.
So
looking
under
for.
this though, under this, you would pay
the base.
additional 7,000 gallons. You would go from 52, because you paid 52,000
Yep.
gallons worth at 1,000 gallon after
Mhm.
the 7.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
this
his bill would be in the
59
summer would be $50.92.
as opposed
And-
to 41.
Gotcha. So, and so the other thing too is I only used 5,000 in October. So, and it looked like that was pretty common in the non-watering months or whatever. So that's 2,000 less than the 7,000, but we're still paying
So
the
you would
base
just
rate.
do the base rate, but under the
Mhm.
new one, it would be
Be
an
47
additional
cents.
$3 or something.
Yeah,
It'd be 2176
okay.
for
Thank you.
5,000 gallons.
I thought it was 46.
Hope that's what you were looking for.
Once he's.
Bill, go 54. So obvious, I mean, and we knew any water, any utility, Karen, when's the last time we increased water rate? Has it been 5 years?
I don't,
2019.
I think it was
Thank you.
19.
Perfect. 2019. And
That's
before
what I'm saying.
2000, I had it written down. Before 2019, it was a couple years and then it was more than that. I mean, we really do not raise water. And what we've talked about as a council is planning for the future.
Mhm.
It is really nice that we have CREZ funds. All those dollars are nice. They are going to stop at some point. There is no, like most of the CREZ dollars, most of the entities that are going to be out of the CREZ and back on the taxing district do not come back to Boardman. They are outside of city limits. The only one that's inside city limits is Lamb Weston and the Amazon over here. Everything else is outside of city limits. That is not a tax increase that we're going to get. That is why we're trying to promote these businesses, have the hotels and all these other things. But the fear is if we don't do something now, we're ripping off a Band-Aid and it literally is going to 50. And I don't care what you have. Great. There's no dry lawns. Well, that's what we have to charge you anyway. And it'll be a one-shot thing.
It'll be like the garbage rate increase.
Correct.
It still wasn't very much, but
Yeah.
we had to do it all at once.
And that's all. And obviously this is the first time you guys are hearing it. You've seen the numbers and it's good to talk it out. We haven't even talked sewer yet, but it's the same concept. Again, trying to be ahead. The way his figures run off the water is in 20 years, we are going to be zero. It's going to take us 20 years to do that. We're not going this huge, massive thing. And I think the community will have to, we'll explain that to them.
So
Yes,
is there-
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, this is probably a question for Andy. But did you do a trajectory where that you ripped the Band-Aid off in year one with like a doubling of the bill essentially, or adding $18 to it? And so instead of it being 1731, it's now 3531.
Andy, share the
And
number.
starting from the beginning in 2026 with this large increase, you would have more years at that dollar value. How soon would the bill be at even?
So Andy, share the numbers if the port were to stop getting water from the city.
No, I don't think that's what I'm asking.
That's a ripping the Band-Aid off. If the port
Yeah.
stops, it's like $50.
Let me,
That's not what I'm asking though.
But you're asking for like, what would a high number be? And that's a good trajectory. Like if the port were done, that would be a ripping the Band-Aid off regardless of what happens. And it goes up to, yeah, 50 bucks.
I think what she's asking, instead of doing a gradual increase, what would the numbers be if we just did it all at one time?
Oh,
I hate to do this, but
That's what I'm asking.
I'm kind of challenged by it
Having a hard time getting it out, I guess.
to see if I can
Well,
do that online.
Andy, while you're pulling that up, because you had labeled it A, like it was like an option A, like there was going to be more. Was that the only one like that you felt like this is the best model, this is the best one? I just thought maybe we were going to see more since you labeled it that way.
the one model that we're sharing now is the realistic. This is the one where the port is the port. If something changes with the port, then we could look at different numbers. But as of right now, the port is 6% for 30 years, and we have to do those numbers. So that's why, basically. But there is one that says there's no port. There's one that says the port is the same as the city, and then there's one
We're
that
just not going to see it.
I can send you those numbers.
Okay.
But again, it's all theoretical. The one that's most probable is the fact that they're 6%.
When does the third
In
year
the
end?
brochure, in the packet that says water rate adjustment, there was a page that says potential project with the port as a customer. Then there's one with the port as not a customer.
Yep.
Is that what it,
Yep.
is this what you would be sending us again?
there's the actual figures that he has, like one that shows,
Spreadsheets, right?
yep, the spreadsheets. One that shows, and again, they're the same as that. One shows that it's a 12% increase if the port remains the same. If the port were go to the same rate that we would, it takes it down to 10%. And then there's one that shows that the port is no longer receiving water from the city, and you guys have that one.
And I think that one is important to look at.
Oh, it is. It brings it
But
down.
Then
Correct.
why are we talking about only one up here?
I just think it might help to clarify for us to be able to see those numbers.
Correct. And again, it's time. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a few minutes left and we haven't even gotten through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Real-
and again, we have all those three different figures, and we have the same for sewer.
I don't even think we should, I mean, there is no way we can charge our citizens more for price of water than what we charge the port.
We can't, well,
Well, we can, but is that, I mean,
that is the agreement.
well, I get that agreement, but if I'm going to increase the city's water, our citizens 12% every year, and the port, that's 24,
Correct.
in 2 years, and they're only going to go 6.
Correct.
But I would think, just to justify the difference, is that the port has a lot of their own water. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, but they have a lot of their own water lines, so we don't maintain that. We just furnish water, where the citizens in Boardman, we have to furnish the pipes and the everything else and the labor. Because when we sell it to the port, they do all that. They
Yep.
do all the pumping, they do all that.
Correct.
So that's the difference in that price range.
Well, the average citizen's not going to get that. They're just going to say, my water bill's going up way more higher than the port is
Yeah.
paying.
And it really is it took me a little bit to get that
I
concept.
get that.
But it really is for a majority, there's still some things we need to clean up, but it really is, we turn on a spigot for the port and that's it. And where here, the ones that we're like maintaining that is the increase.
Right.
If they need a new meter, they gotta do it. We don't, the city doesn't do
Correct.
that.
Correct.
Which.
And there's some things that we need to look at for
I
sure.
guess we're going to have to table this for another discussion because we are
Yeah.
out of time.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Hey,
No,
but
thank you.
real
And again,
quickly-
Go
Real
ahead,
quickly, to
Andy.
answer the question, the rate impact, if you wanted to do it all at once, would be 56% increase.
And how soon would our debt to income be, what was that, net zero?
Yeah, it would be a
What
20
year would that
year, it'd be 20 years. I mean, you would zero out in 20 years. You'd be positive shortly, in the near term, you'd go positive on your ending balance. I think you can see the spreadsheet. You're positive, and then at some point it starts to trend the other way. And that's doing a one-time 56%, a CPI adjustment going forward. The port would getting the same rate increase as the city customer after year one. They'd get a 6% increase. Citizens would be getting a 56% increase, and then both going up by CPI. The other approach is a more incremental approach and strong encouragement to have the city go renegotiate the contract with the port so that their rates were also going up consistent with the rate adjustments. And by doing that, instead of 12% increases, I believe the rate would go down to 10% a year for 4 years, 5 years, as opposed to 12 over 5. So, there'd be some more rate equity that would take place in that scenario. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Hey, thanks, Andy.
Welcome.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Well, I'll
Yeah,
be
thank
in,
you.
I'll be in discussion about discussing sewer at some point.
Sure. Yep.
Water
Glad
bill.
to get on and talk with you about that as well. Okay. Hey,
Cool.
have a good evening.
water and sewer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think
Good
we're
night.
done with this meeting.
Huh?
Gotta close it.
No. Are we done?
That's it.
All right, this meeting is adjourned.